arrested. And then I entered my... So at that time it was much safer in Stalingrad than in Moscow.
A Khrushchev fear of Stalin trumped the fear of Nazi bombs. Bombs kept coming, and German ground troops drew ever closer to the smoking ruins of the city. It was almost time for the bloody urban fighting that would be so well documented after the war. Less documented were a series of hard-fought battles north of the city. David Glantz has discovered that these forgotten confrontations were a turning point in the war. They decided Germany's fate before the Nazis ever set foot in Stalingrad itself. It is here, at a place called Kotlebane, that the Russians would make their greatest stand. Here, not in Stalingrad, where the tide of the campaign would turn.
Beginning in late August, continuing in September and into October, the Soviets won Kotlebane, nestled in the broad steppe region northwest of Stalingrad. In those operations, the Soviets commit between 2 and 4 armies in near suicidal attacks against the Germans' northern flank.
Hastily coordinated and poorly controlled, these attacks resulted in more than 200,000 Red Army casualties. They were haphazard, dangerous missions that slowed the German assault, but left Soviet soldiers like Anatoly Merezhko scrambling for their lives.
On August 24, we were told that we would counterattack the Germans in order to cut off their 8-kilometer-long corridor. Neither our regiment nor any of the artillery and the aviation trained for this attack. We attacked blindly. We cut off the corridor, but suffered large losses. After 2 days, the Germans sent additional forces and threw us back.
The heavy losses and eventual German success have relegated these battles to the footnotes of history. Another Soviet failure to the run-up to Stalingrad. But there is another side to the story.
But the Soviets suffered appalling casualties in the fighting at Kotlebane, both in terms of personnel and in terms of tanks. However, the net effectiveness was that Paulus's 6th Army now faced the dismal prospect of reducing Stalingrad city primarily with infantry, since 14th Panzer Corps tanks were tied up elsewhere.
The battles at Kotlebane had pinned down Paulus's tanks, leaving the German 6th Army to advance once again with little mechanized support. Glantz believes this gave Stalingrad a chance to survive. On September the 13th, 1942, the 6th Army finally attacked en force. The battle for the city was on.
In essence, Stalingrad becomes a giant meat grinder, into which the 6th Army initially commits 1/3 of its force, early September. By late November, it will in fact commit its entire army.
And they fought against everything, in each basement, and each flat in the apartment buildings. And you can have on one stage with Germans, then Soviets, then Germans, then Soviets.
Without the rugged treads and heavy guns of their tank units, the Germans were forced to fight street to street, building to building. The Soviets were holding on, just playing for time, because north and south of the city, Red Army reinforcements were preparing to launch another major attack.
The Germans are trying against time, fighting Soviet will to squeeze out, destroy those final Soviet pockets of resistance. They will never do so because on the morning of 19 November, German troops in the city of Stalingrad can now hear distant guns to the northwest and to the south. Those guns are announcing the opening of a Soviet counteroffensive.
Operation Uranus was the Soviet effort to close Soviets had done their intelligence. They knew where the German lines were weak, and they penetrated.
Over 1 million Red Army soldiers converged on the German troops. 3 days later, the Soviet pincers closed near the city of Kalash, trapping over 270,000 men. For the Germans, one hope remained. The High Command turned to Field Marshal von Manstein, whom Hitler had previously sent north to Leningrad. Now he was asked to head back south and scrap together a rescue operation. On the morning of December the 12th, the 6th Army heard the distant sounds of battle as Manstein's men approached. But the Field Marshal, whose battle plan had conquered most of Western Europe, could not break through the Soviet ring. As the guns of Manstein's relief force faded into silence, reality set in for the encircled 6th Army. The Soviets began their final assault with the largest artillery barrage in history. The Germans were on their last legs. In January, Adolf Hitler promoted General Paulus to Field Marshal. But it was hardly an honor. No Field Marshal had ever surrendered. It was the Führer's way of telling Paulus to fight to the death or commit suicide. For Hitler, surrender in the city with the name of his nemesis was just not an option. But Paulus, for the first time in